Welcome to Wellywood Wargaming, where the grim dark never sleeps. Crack open a bottle of Wild Snake and spark up a low stick as we take a journey down Underhive.
In 1988, Games Workshop took a detour from the dark fantasy of Warhammer and the grimdark dystopian sci-fi of Rogue Trader, venturing into the scorched highways of a post-apocalyptic United States. Dark Future was a vehicular combat game like no other. A blend of tactical depth, grim dystopian storytelling, and great miniatures. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this cult classic to explore its lore, miniatures, and of course, lasting impact on the Warhammer community. Set in an alternate 1995, Dark Future presents a grim vision of America, a nation divided, sprawling urban police zones contrasted with anarchic wastelands, where the rule of law is dictated by the barrel of a gun. Ecological disasters have ravaged the land, the Great Lakes have shrunk, and the Midwest is now a barren desert. Corporations control the police, and chaos reigns on the highways. Players step into the boots of sanctioned operatives or ops, mercenaries hired for high-stake missions on these unpoliced roads. Whether it's escorting vital cargo, hunting gang lords, or surviving brutal ambushes, every journey is a deadly gamble. The lore leans into its inspirations, think Mad Max and Death Race 2000, spiced with the biting cynicism of 1980s dystopian science fiction, yet it stands apart, creating a living, breathing world where survival is the ultimate currency. At its heart, Dark Future is a vehicular combat game, but it's not just about racing, it's about control, tactics, and destruction. Players navigate customizable vehicles across modular tracks. Movement is fluid. Vehicles can drift, shunt, reverse, or perform dramatic U-turns. Weapons range from machine guns to flamethrowers, each with specific range and fire arc mechanics. The modular tracks add another layer of strategy. You can randomly generate layouts for endless variety or use preset scenarios. Missions are diverse, pursuits, convoy ambushes, or even high-speed heists. And then there's the depth. Every vehicle has a unique speed and handling profile. Every turn requires balancing speed, positioning, and the temptation to ram your enemies off the road. This isn't a casual game, it's a tactical playground that rewards patience and planning. The Dark Future boxed set was a treasure trove. Inside, you'd find a 104-page rulebook, quick play rules, interlocking modular tracks, plastic cars and motorcycles, counters, dice, and even the first acetate range ruler. The miniatures were also a marvel. Designed by Citadel, they featured customizable weapon mounts, capturing the game's DIY combat ethos. For hobbyists, these models were a blank canvas, inviting creative conversions. Even today, these miniatures hold a certain charm. Finding originals is a collector's dream, or a nightmare depending on availability, but their legacy lives on in modern kit bashing with Necromunda and Ash Wastes most recently. Later on in 1988, when I was just 7, Games Workshop released the White Line Fever expansion. Doubling down on the game's complexity, it introduced advanced rules, new vehicles, weapons, and campaign mechanics. The expansion also enriched the lore. Missions became more intricate, adding layers of strategy. Whether you were defending a convoy or hunting rogue operatives, White Line Fever turned every match into an epic showdown. It is impossible to talk about Dark Future without, of course, mentioning its influences. George Miller's Mad Max is the most obvious, an apocalyptic highway drama where survival is brutal and gasoline is king. But there's more. Steve Jackson's Car Wars laid the groundwork for vehicular combat games, while Games Workshop's own Judge Dredd board game lent mechanical DNA to Dark Future. The gritty aesthetic, dystopian themes, and emphasis on moral ambiguity make Dark Future a reflection of its time, a product of the late 80s, grappling with fears of environmental collapse and corporate overreach. While Dark Future faded from shelves, its spirit endured. The modular terrain and narrative-driven missions influenced Necromunda. The vehicular mayhem was reborn in Gorkamorka, where orcs took to the sands for high-speed warfare. Even Warhammer 40k carries traces of Dark Future, from the grimdark tone to the use of vehicles in combat. And in a full-circle moment, the Ash Wastes expansion for Necromunda feels like a spiritual successor, bringing vehicular combat back into the fold. Dark Future was way ahead of its time, a game that combined tactical depth with an unforgettable setting. Its detailed rules might seem daunting, but for those willing to dive in, it's an experience like no other. With the resurgence of narrative gaming and the popularity of vehicular combat in games like Gaslands, there's never been a better time to revisit the highways of Dark Future. Whether through modern conversions or digital adaptations, its legacy is ripe for revival. The thing I remember most from Dark Future was the iconic illustrations that were published in White Dwarf magazine, along with articles and expansions and the sort of emphasis on the build your own sort of customization of the game, as well as, of course, the novels that they also released alongside this as sort of early precursor to Black Library. More than just a game, Dark Future was a vision, a dark mirror of our world, filled with chaos, conflict, and creativity. Its legacy lives on in the imaginations of hobbyists and the DNA of Games Workshop's greatest hits. So gear up, roll the dice, and take to the highways once more.